The wrestling world just experienced a moment so monumental that it feels like the ground beneath WWE has shifted forever. And if you weren't tuned in last night, you're about to hear exactly why every fan on the planet is still buzzing and why social media hasn't stopped exploding since the show ended. Because what Roman Reigns did wasn't simply a return or an appearance. It was the complete destruction of everything we thought we understood about the current WWE landscape, a demolition of the status quo so powerful that it left two of the company's most dominant rising stars shaken to their core, and every fan watching questioning whether they had just seen the most dangerous version of Roman Reigns in history, because this was not the tribal chief of old. This was something darker, something more primal, something so intense it bordered on terrifying. And if you thought you'd already seen Roman at his peak, at his absolute most dominant, think again, because what unfolded in that ring against Bron and Bronson Reed wasn't just a confrontation. It was a psychological masterclass that left the crowd first in stunned silence, and then in an eruption of noise louder than anything we've heard in years. And the truth is, this is just the beginning, with insiders already leaking reports that WWE officials are scrambling in panic, rewriting scripts, holding late-night meetings. And Triple H himself was locked in emergency discussions, because what happened has completely altered the trajectory of multiple storylines heading into WrestlePalooza and beyond. But before we unpack the backstage chaos, let's go back to the exact moment everything changed, because the setup itself was picture-perfect. Bron Breakker had just showcased why people are calling him the future of WWE, his intensity through the roof, his presence filling the ring as he stood tall after a dominant showing. Bronson Reed, fresh off crushing his opponent with sheer raw power, looked unstoppable as the commentary team could barely find words to describe his performance. The crowd was electric, the scene set for two young monsters to bask in their glory, but then the lights dimmed and silence swallowed the arena, a silence so sharp it felt suffocating, and then the music hit, Roman's theme, but not as we remembered it, darker, heavier, with a menacing edge that made the air feel like a storm was about to tear the roof off. And when he emerged from the entranceway, he didn't look like the cool, collected chief we knew. He looked possessed, his gear darker, his eyes colder, his demeanor radiating danger, and as he walked the ramp, every fan knew they were watching history unfold. The reaction deafening yet laced with fear, as even his loudest critics fell silent just to see what this darker Roman was about to unleash. And here's the part that changed everything. As he got closer to the ring, Breakker and Reed, men who pride themselves on never backing down, actually stepped back. Not out of weakness, but because the sheer presence of Roman forced their instincts to hesitate. The tension so thick it was unbearable, and then Roman stopped, fixed a stare on them, and after a pause that felt like forever, he smiled. Not his usual smirk, but a sinister grin that promised destruction, sending chills through the arena as the two young powerhouses tensed like prey in front of a predator. And when Roman finally entered the ring, he didn't rush. He stalked, each step precise, deliberate, designed to suffocate his opponents with psychological pressure until Breakker finally stepped forward. But instead of intimidation, we saw something new in his eyes, doubt, and Roman pounced on it with venom, tearing into him with words sharper than any spear, dismissing his legacy, mocking his family name, spitting out the word Steiner like it meant nothing. A line that audibly shocked the crowd because in wrestling heritage is sacred, yet Roman shredded it in seconds. Then he turned to Reed, tearing into his tsunami moniker, promising to drown him in his own false reputation. And with each word, Roman wasn't just cutting a promo, he was dissecting their identities, leaving them exposed and paralyzed. And then he went further, daring them to attack, spreading his arms wide like a predator offering himself to prey, roaring at them to prove their worth. And yet they didn't move, they froze. And Roman capitalized by delivering the line that's already legendary. That's what I thought, dismantling them with brutal finality as the crowd lost its mind. But instead of ending it with violence, he ended it with the most disrespectful move possible, turning his back and walking away, showing the world he didn't even consider them worthy of his fists yet. And that's when everyone realized this wasn't just about two men, this was about redefining dominance. Because with no punches thrown, no Superman punches, no spears, Roman Reigns had just completely destroyed the aura of two monsters and elevated himself to mythical status. And now the aftermath is chaos. Reports of stunned silence backstage as superstars watched on monitors. Social media exploding with fans declaring Roman just set a new standard for intensity in WWE, and even veterans reportedly in awe of the segment. Because this wasn't just a promo, this was Roman rewriting the playbook, proving that he doesn't just control matches, he controls minds, he controls narratives, he controls fear, and now WWE has to ask the impossible question. How do you book around a man whose presence alone dismantles careers? How do you build future stars when Roman's aura erases them before they even throw a punch? The truth is, this moment wasn't just legendary, it was transformative, a performance that will be studied, replayed, and remembered for years. And if his promise to destroy everyone is more than just words, then the WWE Universe better prepare, because what we witnessed wasn't the peak of Roman Reigns. It was the beginning of something far more terrifying, a run that could go down as the most dominant in wrestling history. So hit that like button, smash subscribe, and stay tuned, because if this was just night one of the new Roman Reigns, the war that's coming will change WWE forever.